Hello, wonderful coworkers. Brett asked me to do a little talk to you guys today about the outdoor learning we're doing in grade 1. So I thought it would be easier just to make a short little video so you can see visually what it is we are up to. At the start of the school year, Jen emailed the 1,000 Hours Outside website to the staff. And I was inspired by the idea of spending a lot of time outside, especially given COVID. So I looked at the instructional days and decided that our classroom goal would be 300 hours outside. We are well on our way to 40 hours already, which is super exciting. Knowing that this was a goal, I spent a lot of time before school started this year brainstorming ways that we could make our learning portable so that it could come outside with us or stay inside with us. One of the most important things there was getting caddies for each of the kids to hold their supplies in. These are super flexible because they have a handle and can be easily carried. All children have their own bin for story workshop. They have their own mailbox where they keep their clipboards and other items, as well as reading bins. Basically, the point I want you to take away from this is bins, 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 storage, 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 things that can come inside and outside. My original intention was to have our math outside, but I quickly found that trying to do group lessons outside was difficult for me wearing a mask. The kids just didn't quite understand what I was saying, and it took longer for them to catch on to concepts. That said, these math bins are highly movable and can be used anywhere, so perhaps once we get a better grasp on new concepts, we will be taking these outside. We will see. When the kids aren't having playtime outside, I also find it important to define their space. So each child has a hula hoop that they can work in. Currently, we're using these mainly for our story workshop. So as you can see already, some things are outside and some are not. There are parts of our day that are consistently outside, however, so I'm going to take a moment now and walk you through some of those things. The first activity we consistently take outside is during Daily 5. That's kind of my literacy block in the morning. During Daily 5, we learn about a new letter, how it looks, and what sound it makes. We also learn how to print that letter. Within Daily 5, we include some reader's workshop. Right now, we're looking at these amazing wordless books that Jamie took out of our library. Soon, we'll be adding books with words to sound out and practice our reading strategies with. To learn how to read left to right, we also do some chorus reading together as a class. I'm kind of having a blast with this year because I gave the kids all a witch finger and we read with our witch fingers. Because you gotta have fun. As I'm sure you can imagine, this is a ton of work for a grade 1 student. So in the middle of all of this, we take a little bit of an outdoor break. We go outside on a scavenger hunt to find the letter we're working on in nature or on the playground. As we find the letters, we're slowly replacing our classroom alphabet to show all of our awesome finds. We love that this gets us out of our spots in the classroom, gives us a bit of a body break, and it also keeps us on task. Story workshop is a subject that I wanted to take outside right away, and I tried it, and it was an epic disaster. This is where I found that trying to teach a bunch of kids a whole group lesson outside when they can't see my mouth and it's harder for them to hear and there's a ton of distractions doesn't work too well. So I taught the next few lessons inside, and now we can take story workshop outside without any issue. The whole idea of story workshop is, you guess it, to learn how to tell a story and eventually how to write a story. I start the year off with minimal materials, so each child has 2 characters and 3 random loose parts in their story bin. When we're outside, they have the added benefit of adding natural materials. The children learn how to first think about a story in their head and then tell it out loud to themselves, then tell it out loud to a partner. These visuals I made stay in their baskets, reminding them about thinking, telling, and on the other side, that their story needs characters, it needs to know where their characters are, there needs to be a problem, and there needs to be a solution. This serves as a guide for their storytelling. After our first epic fail, but you know what, we still learned from it, of trying to tell stories outside, I learned that I needed to model the stories inside where they could all see well without having to be far away from me. I did this with the kids a few times, just as I had planned to do outdoors, And it worked really well. So now when I take them outdoors, they already know their expectations. I share this mostly as an encouragement that if you tried it and it failed, to think a little bit more on it and try again. Before we go outside, the students grab their story bins and they can switch their materials from last day. Their old materials go into that quarantine bin, and then they can choose from what's laid out on the bench for what they want to tell a story with on that day. Next, they grab their clipboards and caddies and we head outside to do some storytelling. This time has been so amazing, and being outside really does add an extra element to the storytelling. I'm super glad I didn't give up. The next time that is consistently outside for us is discovery. This is our playtime where we explore science, social, health, and art outcomes. It has also become an amazing time for supporting mental health as we explore outside. This year, our division has said that grades pre-K to grade 3, early learning, can have play pods. In these pods, the students still can't touch each other, but they can share materials. So this is what we do during discovery time outside. Every day during discovery, I have 4 different stations set up. Generally, they're in response to the interests of the children. Although at the start of the year, they're very open-ended so that we can see where the interests of the children are. Ladybugs has been a big one. I'm currently borrowing a space in the flex room to store our materials for discovery. Materials need to be quarantined for 48 hours between uses, so I have 2 different laundry baskets with repeating materials in both, so all I really need to do each day is grab the correct basket and quarantine the one from the day before. This method has been working great, although there are some items such as blocks that I still do need to sanitize each time because we use them every day. During lunchtime, I take a moment to load up my trusty wagon with all the things we need for discovery, and then really, we're ready to go and have some fun. Before we go outside, I tell the kids what our daily stations are, and I pull their name pencils one by one, and they choose which play pod they want to be a part of that day. Each play pod maxes out at 5 kids, and there are 4 play pods. This means occasionally that students don't get the pod they want, but generally, they still have fun. I keep track of the play pods and any additional contacts for tracing purposes in this small weekly planner that I keep in my server's apron that's always with me. Once this is done, we head outside and the fun begins. While I'm setting up the different invitations or play pod stations, the kids have time to free play, and I call them once their station is ready. While many students choose to stay in their play pod for the entire discovery time, which is about an hour, there are some that do get tired of their station and they're allowed to go and free play in nature. They know they're just not supposed to go to one of the other play pod stations, and they do really well following this rule. When kids tire of their play pods and begin just playing freely, I'm always amazed at what they discover. Here you see a moss discovery. And I was super surprised to find out that nobody in our class had the word for moss. This gave us the opportunity during our sharing time to talk about moss and learn a little bit about why it shows up where it does. This student was playing in the garden and pulled up this huge root. This led us to a class conversation during our sharing time about plants and what roots do for plants. We also talked a lot about the changing of seasons. Last week, these 2 girls were digging and shouting excitedly, and I wandered over to see what was going on, and I nearly jumped, but I had to pretend I was super excited because, well, they found a centipede. Again, they didn't have the word for this bug, so we looked it up together, and now we know that this is what a centipede looks like. Now may I never see one in real life again, please. This student made a discovery of these berries. He asked me what they were called, and I was surprised to know that, well, I didn't know. So I asked some of my friends and finally figured out that these are called elderberries. Now when we go outside to play in this particular spot, we have named it the Elderberry Place. We've started to keep our discoveries on the locker in our room so that we don't forget the new words that we've learned. Once a discovery is made, it's printed, and the child writes the word with me, and we put it up for all the kids to see. There are tons and tons of possibilities for things that can be done outside. This is just what I'm doing so far. The greatest takeaway I would have is if you think something's not working, reevaluate, see if you can tweak it a little bit, and try again. Not every day will work perfectly or be magic, but if you keep trying at it, you'll find magic somewhere. I hope you found this in some way helpful. Enjoy your outside time.